Some people don't go because they're just afraid. I have a family member who has not been to the doctor since she had a baby, and her child is 40. And
Are you serious?
I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm going, just go check, please. So it's a never-ending struggle in our community.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Mibo Show. I am your host, Shanti Das, and today's episode is so very important to me. Actually, 20 years ago, I lost a dear friend to the disease that we're going to talk about, and I have another friend, a dear friend who is a survivor and thriving today, thank goodness. And this show is dedicated to awareness around multiple myeloma. Multiple myeloma is a rare blood cancer that affects a type of white blood cell called plasma cells. While the disease is rare, the impact on Black communities is disproportionate, with 20% of all cases occurring in Black people. So I personally joined this really cool initiative and campaign called That's My Word. That's My Word is a campaign by Johnson & Johnson, and it is in response to the healthcare disparities impacting the Black community. It's all about making a promise to ourselves, to our loved ones, and overall to our community. So you too can make a difference by raising awareness of multiple myeloma, committing to routine checkups, and guess what? Encouraging those who may be at risk proactively by seeking out care. That is the goal. We want to make sure that everybody goes to the doctor, keep those appointments, and seek out care. And we also have some incredible guests today to keep this conversation going and to bring awareness to this disease and how it affects our community. So first off, and I don't know why, I see this young lady more than a little bit at award shows and different events, but to be talking to her personally today is just like really an incredible opportunity for me because I was there in the beginning to watch the greatness in her music career. So first up, we have the incomparable Erica Campbell, who is a Grammy Award-winning American gospel singer and songwriter. She's also one half of the legendary gospel group Mary Mary, which I mentioned I did the marketing for a little bit back in the day.
Yes.
And she is also the host of the Urban One radio incredible show, Get Up Mornings with Erica Campbell. And cancer has impacted her family in more ways than one. Her father, who was a pastor, suffered from multiple myeloma and passed away in 2023. Erica's husband, Warren, who is another dear friend, also was diagnosed with kidney cancer in 2008, but is now cancer-free. She is very vocal about cancer awareness, specifically children's cancer, and through her partnership with St. Jude's. Please welcome to the Mibo Show, my friend who I love and admire tremendously, Erica Campbell. Yay!
Right. That was such a beautiful introduction. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And you deserve every bit of it. And thank you for using your voice and your platform. I'm looking forward to today's conversation.
Absolutely. We got to do it.
Absolutely. And next up, someone who I just recently had the pleasure, literally a few minutes ago, of getting introduced to, but she is doing wonderful things in our community around this disease. We have Dr. Hartley-Brown, who is an emerging national leader in the field of multiple myeloma. She is an attending medical oncologist who specializes in treating patients with multiple myeloma. As a Black female physician, she's dedicated to ensuring that the care for the multiple myeloma community is equitable and all patients with multiple myeloma receive an optimal level of care, regardless of their background, race, socioeconomic status, and more. Dr. Hartley-Brown has personal experience with the disease as the care partner for her own mother, who was diagnosed with multiple myeloma. Welcome to the show, Dr. Hartley-Brown.
Thank you. I am just honored to be here and to meet both of you.
Absolutely. Thank you so very much. Health conversations are sometimes whispered within our community. Growing up in a large family, Erica, did your family actively talk about health or discuss your family health history? And what type of conversations do you and your husband and children have now?
So, growing up in a Christian home and kind of an old school Christian home, it was more so God will heal. But then my grandmother had a back injury in an accident. And so she was in and out of the hospital and there was a lot of medication. So while we still believed in prayer, it shifted because doctors were a necessity. So when my father found out that he had cancer. And so it was
Mm.
just kind of a bit of a learning curve to go from everything will be fine. Everyone's sick now. What do we do? So when me and my husband got married, health and fitness was so important to us. There are some times, well, we'll just be vegan for a year just because I've seen so many people suffer from sickness for a long time. Here's the interesting part. I grew up in a church where people got healed from cancer, like a lot. So by the time my husband had it, it was such a shock and so hard to process. And I had
Mhm.
lost my dad. So I was like, Lord, I don't know what you want to do. Right. So I was torn between my faith and then educating myself and doing what I needed to do and having good doctors and, researching what we wanted to do. Do you want to do homeopathic? Because there's so many different options. Right. But education is number one. You can't help if you don't know. And so that's even now our priority. If we feel something and something's not quite right, long gone are the days of take some Tylenol, drink some ginger ale, and we'll be okay. I want to treat my body well the same way I'm not going to put raggedy gas in my car, or the same way I'm not going to put raggedy oil in my car. I'm going to take care of my body well. So this health journey has been really, really interesting. But I'm so happy to be a part of this conversation because if you can do nothing else but encourage someone to take good care of their body and not take it lightly, and also not operate in fear. Some people don't go because they're just afraid. I have a family member who has not been to the doctor since she had a baby, and her child is 40. And
Are you serious?
I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm going, let's go check, please. So it's a never-ending struggle in our community.
Yeah, it really is. And thank you for sharing that. And again, being so vulnerable around it. And, we previously talked about your family's history, including your husband's kidney cancer and your father's multiple myeloma diagnosis. Can you share a little bit more about the cancer journeys and how that kind of impacted your family going through that? And as a daughter to a parent that had multiple myeloma, what role did you play, if any, in his health and care journey? And again, were you leaning on faith through that journey with your father? And kind of what did that look like?
Yes, always leaning on faith. But so my father was ill a lot of my life. He also had this adrenaline gland issue. I don't know the proper name of it, but literally only 1 in 3 white men get it. So when my father had it, he was misdiagnosed for most of his life. So he had this
Mm.
adrenaline issue where he would be very tired. And as a Black man, when you're tired, what do? Call you lazy. So he would work anyway, and I would see him be tired, but it was a lot of medicine and a lot of doctors my whole life. So when we found out about the cancer, there had already been a lot of medicine and a lot of doctors. So we were like, okay, we just kind of continued the journey. A lot of other things. Did he take good care of his body? He was once a bodybuilder and in perfect shape, and then all of a sudden it all went left. So there was a lot for me and my sisters, all 7 of my sisters, to process. But when he did start, we would go to the doctor appointments with him. We would make sure that he was on top of his medicine because there was so much. Some days he'd be taking too much because this one makes you sleepy. This one wakes you up. This one, I mean, it can be insane if you don't have somebody in this journey with you. Luckily, I had some other sisters who were there attentive to him because, of course, me and my sister Tina were traveling, but my sister Shanti, my sister Elena, we were all attentive and always on the phone with each other, with what was going on. And if there was ever a problem, as my father got older and the illness started to really kind of take over, his personality shifted and he would say, I need your help. That was strange for me. I'd never heard my father say, I need anything. Because he was always,
Mm.
I got it, I can take care of everything kind of man. And
Mhm.
I heard somebody say, and I know this is going to sound harsh, a lot of times we have to realize they've never died before. So this process of knowing that I'm leaving here is hard to grasp. They get mean, they get grumpy, you know what I mean? They change. And you literally have to love them through transition. That is not easy, especially when you're a person of faith and you're telling people God can heal. And I'm like, I've seen people get healed. Maybe it will be my father. That wasn't his story. So that whole journey was very, 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 very tough. Not to mention all the other things that was going on in my life. The change in Mary, we were on a reality show. We were being sued by a manager. It was just so difficult to go through that. But God carried us through. I really believe the peace of God carried us through. We were with him as much as we could be, as much as he would allow us to be. We prayed for him. We told him, we honor you. This is your life. I don't want you to stay here for me. This is your life. How do you feel? That's hard to tell your parent, because you're selfish, your kid. You're like, no,
That's
Daddy,
right.
stay. We need you. But I said, Daddy, this is your life. He said, I'm ready to go home. We all went in the back and cried. We took our time leaving the room. Okay. We all left the room and cried and processed. But it's his life. And that's just not easy to deal with, but you have to allow them to live their life. You know what I mean? And when they're ready, sometimes they just are.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. I know that is very personal, and my heart goes out to you and your sisters and the rest of your family that had to endure that. I recall the day that my girlfriend, it's been almost 20 years since she passed away from multiple myeloma, and I knew she was getting weaker. And she always complained about her bones hurting and aching. And for years, she was undiagnosed and was really suffering in a lot of pain. And once she got diagnosed and started her treatment, it really did a number on her. And she just appeared. This was literally when I was working at Columbia, ironically. I might have even been working the Mary Mary album. And I was in one of those Donnie Einer meetings and got out of my meeting. And Donnie Einer, for those that don't know, is the former chairman of Columbia Records. So I came back to my office and she was in my office. Now, mind you, she lived in Atlanta. And I said, girl, what are you doing in New York City? Because again, she was in the middle of treatment. She had been diagnosed. I think she knew. And she wanted to come see other friends and family. And it was just such a special moment. And she didn't live that much longer after that. And of course, it was very traumatic for all of our, the girlfriends. But to your point, when they know and it's their lives, you have to honor them. And I could have chastised her for flying and getting on a plane and coming, but I said, you know what? What do you want to do? Like, let's hang out, whatever you want to do. And I was just so honored that I could be there and share some of those last moments with her. And I want to bring Dr. Hartley-Brown into the conversation because I understand you also lost a family member to multiple myeloma. Dr. Hartley-Brown, can you share what that experience was like for you as a care partner and how it informs your practice as a physician?
So I hear a lot from both of you talking about your experiences, and my experiences were different. That being said, I was only a second year medical student when my mother was dealing with this. I had no clue about what multiple myeloma was at that time. I had no idea how to help, but I was reaching and reaching and reaching and searching for answers. And I think, to your point, Erica, you mentioned that this is a journey. It's a journey that each individual has to go through, and it's a journey that's different for each person. And for my mother, the things that kind of stood out to me and made me kind of really want to seek out more answers is the fact that it took a long time for her to get diagnosed. It took a long time for answers to come to fruition. It was, she was seeing doctors in various places, and nobody really had a final diagnosis. And then she was very young. She was in her late 40s, early 50s. It was obvious from the family and everybody who knew her that something was very, very wrong. But yet we weren't getting the answers that we needed. And so, it's everybody's struggle is very, very different. Everybody's journey is very, very different. But in that situation, it was more of, I need answers. I need to know what's going on. And, mark you, this was, more than 20 years ago. And the treatments we had for multiple myeloma at that point in time were very limited. And then to add to that, my family's Jamaican. My mother was in a country that just didn't have a lot of resources. She even came to the United States because we used to live in the United States, and she came here seeking, medical attention. But again, it was a very, very just rare disease. Like, it was not very talked about. It was not. There was not a lot of awareness about it. There was not a lot of patient empowerment about it. And so we've come a long way in managing this disease, and I think now is a pivotal time because it is a disease that affects Black Americans and Afro descent individuals way more than Caucasians or whites. So we need to be more aware. We need to be empowered in the fact that every time we talk about medical health, we need to be secure in the fact that we're getting the answers that we need. Like, what is going on? Why is this happening? Why are my lab tests out of the normal range? What does this mean? And how can I, do something to improve my health and so forth? So I think we really need to be curious, ask those questions, move the dial forward, because a lot of those things did not happen in the past. And, I hate to say this, but the reality is, as Afro descent individuals, we are affected by cancer much more than white patients and white people. So they're dying faster. And, some of these things are things that we can intervene upon much sooner, and we can do something about. And so we really need to be motivated towards that, because I think this is not our normal, and this is something we can change.
Agreed, 100%. And just thank you again for sharing that about being your mom's care partner and all that you did throughout her journey. I want to take this a step further, kind of talking about how rare multiple myeloma is and the impact that we talked about of it being disproportionate within Black communities. What are some of the barriers, systemic, personal, and cultural, Dr. Hartley-Brown, that you've witnessed or experienced firsthand that makes it more difficult for Black patients to get equal access to care, including early diagnosis and optimal treatment?
So that is a very intense question, but I will try to address it as best.
Take a little bit of it.
I'll address this as best as I can. What I would say is there are several things that actually can be, conflicting in the diagnosis when it comes to multiple myeloma. So first off, there are precursor conditions to multiple myeloma. There's something called smoldering multiple myeloma. There's something called monoclonal gammopathy of undetermined significance. That's a mouthful, but it essentially means MGUS. And it's kind of like that signal, that early signal that you may potentially develop this type of condition. And when we look at patients across the board, we see that patients of Afro descent and Latino descent are 2 to 3 times more likely to have these precursor conditions, as well as being diagnosed at a younger age. So the average age for patients who are developing multiple myeloma is in their late 60s. So we're talking about 69. But again, this is heavily predicted on white patients. So when we look at Black patients and patients of Hispanic background, we're seeing those patients being diagnosed, 5 years or 10 years younger than this, age group that we're coming at.
And my girlfriends, Dr. Hartley-Brown, they were both in their 40s.
Yeah. So we're talking about 5 to 10 years younger. And when we talk about 5 to 10 years younger, we're talking about individuals who are active individuals in society. Like, they have their jobs, they're, mothers, fathers, they're, physically working and contributing to society, et cetera, et cetera. And so when they are, affected by this disease, you're talking about loss of income. You're talking about not being able to go back to work, how that affects the family in general, loss of insurance, because many of us, insurance is tied to your work. So loss of insurance, you're talking about, not being able to fund or finance things for your children, or even the older adults in your family, because maybe you're the caregiver for a mom or dad or an in-law. And so there are multiple ways that this can affect an individual. But then when we think about outside of that, when you talk about the barriers, the treatments that are available for multiple myeloma, I just mentioned earlier that, my mom was diagnosed several years ago. So over 20 years ago, we didn't have as many treatment options as we do now. Now we have over 20 therapies that are available. We keep getting more and more therapies approved, which is great. But the key thing is, this is still an incurable cancer. This is still a cancer that even when we, throw all the treatments that we have towards this disease, we still see it recurring, years down the line or months down the line. And so we're not at that space and place where we can say, okay, this is what we need to do to cure this particular disease.
Thank you so much for that. I think you were going to say something, Erica, when I mentioned that both of my girlfriends were young when they got diagnosed. You remember?
Yes. Yes. One of my really good girlfriends passed just before she turned 45. And she had been on that journey for a long time. And as you were talking about
multiple myeloma?
No, breast cancer.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Breast cancer. Yeah. But, just some of the disparities as it relates to medical insurance and financial things. And then historically, our communities, Black and brown communities, we don't historically go to the hospital, the doctor, the regular checkups. You know what I mean? The conversations in our house, in different houses, have a lot to do with, some of the disparities in this country and what we have and our ability to say, oh, sure, just call the ambulance. I know anytime they were ready to call the ambulance, my mom would say, somebody get in the car. We can't afford that. That was always the conversation. So it was almost like the finances had priority over the health, because you knew these bills can literally take you out. A lot of people, when it comes to sickness, you are one check away or one bill away from losing everything, because you can't work now, you can't pay bills, but these other bills are piling up, but you need the care. So it's really a terrible case here in this country, and with people who suffer financially, as many are, because look at the state of our world.
100%. You make a great point when you think about it, because to your point, everybody doesn't have access. Some people don't even have access to the internet, right? And so you can't even do telehealth if there are any follow-up appointments. And so we have to do the best that we can, particularly in Black and brown communities. That's why we appreciate the work that you do, Dr. Hartley-Brown, and we appreciate your voice, Erica, for really standing on faith and also using your voice to share so that people can try to do their best to get their routine checkups, stay on top, and learn your family history, y'all.
Yes.
Know your family medical history. It is so very important. And I'm sure, Erica, that you and your siblings, knowing, what your father passed from, and now knowing, what your husband, your kids also, will have to make sure that they are staying on top of their health, right? Knowing what happened.
If I'm honest, I didn't know it first. When you started asking, because one of my sisters was like, oh, bone cancer, multiple myeloma. It was like, I was like, you guys, we've got to know this information. We've got to understand what's going on. So it literally, thank you for helping me tell my family, let's pay more attention. I've been a part of so many organizations, from Susan G. Komen and so many other ones, and done the walks and done the concerts and had the conversations, but there's still so much work to be done. That's why I'm grateful to even be a part of this conversation today, because the more we talk, it could be one comment, Dr. Monique, that you give, that someone says, I did feel like that, or maybe I should go get tested, because the more we talk about it, the more it makes people register and find out what's going on. Ask your mama and your aunts what happened. What did she really die from? We don't even call things the right things. We still say sugar, pressure. It's just the stuff that we do. Just it's kind of in our culture, in the African American culture.
Mhm.
But we've got to do better about knowing what we have and what to do about it, and how diet and
Yeah.
exercise and all those things, and even the stress in our house it plays a part in you getting well. If you don't have a healthy house, if there is violence if there's this tense atmosphere, I tell my mamas all the time that are around me that I talk to, you don't want your kids to come home and have to take a deep breath because they know mama's crazy, because mama's going to be hollering all day. There needs to be peace in the house. And you're trying to figure out why mama dropped dead because mama was stressed and overwhelmed and sick. And she thought she was mad. But really, you were
Mm.
sick. You know what I mean? So we've got to pay more attention to ourselves so we live better lives, live healthy lives.
Yes, live better, know it and name
To
it.
your point,
Yes.
I think you brought up a whole bunch of points there that are really extremely important. And and one of the things I do want to highlight is, as as a as a person who grew up with, a full plethora of lovely, wonderful, dynamic people in the Black community, it still is not talked about, right? The C words, right? Cancer is a big thing that just gets hushed a lot. And I think we need to be a little bit more open-minded. We need to be more communicative about this. Cancer and chemotherapy, those are the big C words that just don't get talked about, and it gets shoved under the rug, and it doesn't help anyone. And I think if we can start to have that dialogue and then start to have these types of conversations that we're having today to empower ourselves and our family and our friends to say, hey, if your doctor just says, oh, your creatinine or your kidney function looks a little bit off, push back. Ask, what does that mean? Like, don't just
Right.
take that and run with it and be like, no, I'm fine, because you don't want to be on dialysis, or you don't want to be, oh, it's a little bit of sugar, as you mentioned. Like, maybe something else is under there that needs to be discovered or needs to be addressed. And more importantly, all these things are health conditions that could potentially be improved upon. And the sooner you learn about it, the earlier you actually are aware of it, you can actually reverse some of these problems. And so, when it comes to multiple myeloma, yes, MGUS and smoldering myeloma are there, but if you learn about it early enough, some of the problems that come with active myeloma is bone damage, bone pain. You can get fractures, you can get anemia, you can get, kidney problems, you can get, so many other generalized issues. If you have MGUS and you're following it closely, or you have smoldering myeloma and you're following it or managing it closely, then before you actually have symptoms, once you get into the realm of active myeloma, sometimes you can actually treat it early so you don't actually develop some of these problems that cause mortality and morbidity, right? I mean, the point is empowerment, early education, and early knowing about this. It is a very impactful area. Having these types of conversations and building awareness and building empowerment is very, very much something I am passionate about, because I think that in our community, we don't do it. We shove it under the rug, and we need to stop doing the shoving under the rug. We need to kind of come together and have these discussions and be more proactive.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Hartley-Brown. So, Erica, I follow you on social, and I love just how transparent you are about everything in your life. You've been very open lately about your own personal health journey, battling hypertension, et cetera. And so I want to know, how do you prioritize your overall health, and given your family history with cancer, like what preventative measures or tests are you getting done, or checkups, and just making sure you're taking care of Erica? We want to make sure that you're taking care of yourself.
Okay. Um, I did just come off of a tour. It was 30 cities. And when I got back, I had my doctor. I have a concierge doctor who came to the house and took blood to check and just check my levels and see where I was. I went to my vocal doctor on Monday just to make sure that I've been back for 3 weeks. So just to make sure that I am recovering well. I paid very close attention to my body. Do I go as much as I need to? I absolutely do not, because of the busyness of my life. And
I get it. Me too. I understand.
I mean, it is so many things. And I have 3 kids, 3 active kids who all have appointments as well. Like we pick up my son from school and then he has to go to his orchestra training. And then my niece and nephew who live with us have their sports. So it's just a lot going on. So there usually isn't time. You have to make time and take the time. I have to make it a priority. And that is what I'm working on. Like I said, my dear friend that passed from breast cancer, she would say, Erica, please get tested. And we have several girlfriends that committed to keeping each other accountable and saying, when was the last time you got your mammograms? Have you done the things that you're supposed to do? And it's a struggle sometimes. It's a struggle sometimes because you don't realize how much not taking care of your body can literally you'll take a nosedive. If you're not well, you can put all this stuff on your schedule if you want to, but if you're not well, you can't do it, and you can't do it well. So I am doing the best that I can. Am I where I need to be? I'm not going to lie to everybody and say I do it all.
No, I appreciate your honesty because I think, none of us are perfect and where we want to be,
Yeah. And then I would never want, people to watch me and hear me talk and go, oh, she's got it all together. No, ma'am, Pam. I'm praying. I'm working. I'm trying what I cannot do. God help me to remember, keep people around me that will hold me accountable. Erica, when was the last? My sisters will always say, Erica, you're tired. I can see it in your eyes. When was the last time you've been to the doctor? So I'm grateful for those kinds of people around me.
Mm-hmm.
So I take good care of my body. We have to. We will forget. But when you have people around you and conversations like this do help. I'm making an appointment for a mammogram because it's probably been about 4 years. Unfortunately, but yes, I'm doing better and you're helping me today.
Well, thank you for that. And I'm doing better too. I got to say, I was traveling so much and I had an 8 a.m. appointment the next day that I got home and I overslept and missed my mammogram appointment. I rescheduled it. So yeah, and I'm getting my blood work done just to check. Cause sometimes when my hip was hurting, I remember my girlfriend, the one that passed away from multiple myeloma, she used to complain about her hip aching all the time. And so now with my hip hurt, I'm like, okay, what test do I need to get run? Do I need to get some blood work done? Because you just never know. But I love what you mentioned, Erica, about accountability partners. I think that is super important, whether that is in your family or in your sister group or your friend group or what have you. That is super important. So thank you for all of that. And I think it's important that we mention that, National Black Family Cancer Awareness Week. It's June 13th through the 19th. And the theme this year is engaging the generations. And so I want to ask you, Dr. Hartley-Brown, and then I'll go back to you, Erica, and you can think about it. What advice do you have for the Black community for advocating for their own health and wellness, in addition to what you've already said, and talking to families about health and family history for Black Family Cancer Awareness Week?
Well, I think, thank you for that. And thank you for your honesty, Erica. I think a lot of the things that you mentioned are pivotal. I also have my little girlfriend group that we all like, I'm getting my mammogram today, make sure you get yours, etc. But I think, it's really important to have that dialogue, have those conversations, and also just be curious and don't feel that you don't have a voice. A lot of times we shy away from asking those questions in the doctor's office for whatever reason. But if you can't ask the doctor, or you never got to the point of asking the doctor, ask the nurse, ask the phlebotomist.
You think we don't know because out of fear?
I think
for sure, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I think we don't
sick. People feel like sick is weakness. Most people don't want to. They're sick.
Yeah, I mean,
where I was saying, I'm all right, and sometimes you're not.
But I think sometimes it's also yes, fear is a big part of it. I think fear is a big part of it, and you know, I'm going to go back to the Christian roots and go, fear is a liar, right? I mean, we know that, right? Fear is something that pushes you in the wrong direction because it
Absolutely.
shuts you down. It prevents you from knowing. It prevents you from being active, and it makes you feel depressed and sad and lonely and all those things. That's not the place that you are supposed to be, right? So it takes a little bit of oomph, for lack of a better term, but it takes a little bit of
It's a good
oomph
term.
to push past the fear. And even if you are fearful, let's say you're sitting with the doctor and you don't want to ask those questions, ask the nurse, ask the navigator, ask the, like, all those people. There's so many people that come across you when you come to the doctor's office. And even if you don't ask those people along the way, nowadays we have, you know, all these like electronic online access, right? You can access your medical records, you can shoot a question through the portal, etc. Put a question in the portal. I swear to you, like, I get so many questions and so many things in the portal, and majority of the times it's not from people of the Black community. And I'm like,
You are really inspiring me right now because I had so many questions once I got my blood work done, and I said, never
ask the
mind. I'm not
questions.
going to do that.
Ask the
I'm gonna ask
questions.
you.
I'm serious, because the reality is I've had people who are the healthiest of people, and they're like, well, you know, it was the blood work was off by like 0.1. And I'm like, you're okay, you're going to live. And then I have people who are like, you know, it's like I'm seeing them come in and they've lost like 5 pounds. And I'm like, what's going on? Are you eating? And they're like, I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm like, oh, I don't think you're okay. Tell me more. Tell me more. And they refuse to tell me more. And again, I think fear is a big part of it. I can't speak to all the aspects of what blocks us from having that. I mean, trust is, we can go into that because that is a whole nother beast. But, you know, trust and fear are two things that are somewhat intertwined. And then there's other things that might prevent. But I'm telling you, if you want to do it in, kind of on a level of not necessarily having to do the face to face, shoot that question through the portal, because it is important. I tell my patients all the time, I'm here to support you on your journey. I'm here to support you as a physician, but I don't know what it feels like to get chemotherapy in my veins. I don't know what it feels like to have neuropathy, to have the side effects of these treatments. I don't know what it feels like personally. So if you don't communicate that to me, I can't help. I can't change things. I can't improve things for you. I need you to work with me on this. This is a partnership. And I tell patients this all the time. I said, this is a partnership. You're going through this journey and I'm standing there with you, and we're going to go through this together. And you tell me where you need to draw the line in the sand for whatever the line in the sand is, and we will figure it out. But it's got to be a communicative process. And so that's the whole dialogue. And if you don't have a physician that is working with you in that type of a way, get another one.
Thank you, Dr. Hartley-Brown. And Erica, my friend, what are you going to tell your family to do for National Black Family Cancer Awareness Week?
I'm going to tell them, let's talk and teach. Let's talk. Let's not be ashamed of sickness. I had a family member who said, if you get sick, don't tell your husband. You don't want him to think you're sickly.
Are you serious?
Honest to God. Yeah. I had a lot of family members who like, you don't want him to think you're sick, but I'm actually sick. So talk and teach is what I'm going to tell my family. We don't have to operate in fear. We don't, you know what I mean? You don't get an award for not ever getting sick. You know what I mean? There are doctors, there's healing, there's so many things, but if we don't know, you don't have to endure the pain alone. It is okay. Even if you feel the smallest thing, like you have this sharp pain that's been there for 6 months and you never do anything about it, your body is talking to you. You have a headache that won't go away. Your body is talking to you. So I'm going to tell them that we have to talk and teach one another so that we live healthier lives.
Yes. And we only have a few minutes left, but I want to just, again, remind you all that the campaign is That's My Word. And I've joined this initiative. I'm taking the pledge, and it's asking people to make a promise to yourselves, to your loved ones, to your community. I certainly have made my multiple myeloma promise, which is to bring awareness to my community about multiple myeloma through my podcast. And I'm going to keep my word. I'm going to get my annual checkups and
Me too.
my appointments, which I need my physical now before June. And I'm going to go to my doctor's appointments and keep my regular checkups. Do you have a promise that you want to share about yourself, Erica? Not just to your community, but what is Erica going? What's your That's My Word promise?
Oh, my That's My Word promise is keeping my word to myself. It's something I tell my kids. I ask my kids, what are you saying to yourself about yourself? Our self-talk is very, very important. And I think everything we say sends a message to heaven. And so I always, since I believe in God, I want my words to line up with what he already said about me, right? And even in scripture, taking good care of yourself is a necessity. So keeping my word to myself of taking good care of my body, what I eat, my checkups, all those things. I'm keeping my word, not just for myself, but for my husband, my children, my family, for this beautiful, amazing career and this influence that God has given me to speak into people's lives everywhere. I can't tell them to be well, and I'm not. So my word to myself is for Erica to be well. That's my promise.
Yes. Amen and amen. Because we need you out here in these streets. You're a singing sister, Lord Jesus. I love your voice so much.
Thank you.
Dr. Hartley-Brown, do you have a That's My Word promise that you'd like to share?
It's hard to come after that, Erica, but I would say
you could copy off of me. It's fine.
I would say, my promise is to try to, move the dial forward, because I feel like multiple myeloma is a cancer that we are, as Black Americans, affected more than white Americans and dying from more. And we should be, because of all the statistics that are out there. We have more standard risk disease rather than high risk disease. And so we should be doing better. We're not getting the treatments that we should be getting. And so we need to move that dial forward. And that's my promise. Like, let's level the playing field. Let's get some equitable health in the real world, and allow our people to live longer and more, profitable lives.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hartley-Brown. And the website, if you want to go take your own pledge to yourself and your family for multiple myeloma, it's that'smywordmm.com. And this is the Mibo Show, which is MI for mind, BO for body. And we always ask our guests one song. Erica, what song stimulates your mind and what song soothes your body?
Oh, dear.
Stimulates my mind. Right now, it's my song, Feel All Right, because it's just so powerful, and it declares that everything will be okay. And what soothes my mind, I would say Trusting God by the Winans. It lets me know it's all going to work out for my good. Absolutely.
Amen. I don't want to put you on the spot, but do you have any, Dr. Hartley-Brown? I don't know if you're a music person, but anything stimulating your mind?
I want you to ask her first time.
I mean, so I love the Winans, and CC Winans. Is it Glory? I think or Oh the Glory. I think that's one of the ones that's been most recently, like, just very uplifting for me. But if we talk to my core, as a kid and always, and to this day, Three Little Birds, Bob Marley, everything's going to be all right. Everything is going to be all right. And it just makes me happy. So, yeah.
Well, thank you both so much. I mean, Erica, I love you. I love your family, your husband. Always say yes to me. And for that, I honor you. And I'm always going to be here to support you in any way that I can. And I'm so proud of you. And I know we don't talk all the time, but I'm going to be one of those accountability partners. We do text every now and then. So I'm just going to text you every now and then and say, hey, sister, how's it going? How's the health
I
journey
need
going?
that. I need that. Thank you. Yes, I
So
receive
I'm
that.
here for that. And Dr. Hartley-Brown, thank you for all that you do for our community, educating us, healing us, helping us to be our best selves, and teaching us about so many things that we don't know about that we should from a health perspective. And thank you all for listening to this powerful show today. Oh my gosh, on multiple myeloma. Make sure you visit That's My Word MM for more information on multiple myeloma, available resources, and how you can join Erica, Dr. Hartley-Brown, and I in making your own multiple myeloma promise to increase health conversations in the community and to have better outcomes for all Black patients. And also make sure you remember to subscribe, rate, and share the Mibo Show podcast. Again, I am your girl, Shanti Das. Make sure you take care of your mind and your body. That's all we got.